All right. I don't hear very well, so it's kind of necessary to actually have this really fancy system in here, but I can hear, so it benefits me a lot. Hello all. For those of you who don't know me, and that's a good portion of you, it's very exciting. Every time I do something like this, there's new people coming, you get to meet them. I'm Andrew McFadyen-Ketchum. I'm a local Nashvilleian. I grew up in Sylvan Park before it was Sylvan Park. And that's all I have to say about that. But before anything else happens, let's turn to JP and give him like, woo, thank you, Forevermore opened on 4/20 last year. It was not on purpose that it worked out that way, but that's how it worked out. Yep. And we've become pretty close with everybody who works here. And I said, hey, I want to do some stuff in this joint, and they welcomed us with open arms. So please get your coffees and your thises and your that's. I don't know if you've looked over here at the consignment area, but it's amazing. I come here, get the coffee, and then run the other way, because if I come over here, I start buying her all sorts of things. For $30, you can get amazing stuff. So check it out too, it's pretty neat. So this is poetry on demand. That's what I'm calling it. What it means is what it sounds like. If there is a demand for poetry, I am one of the people you can come to in this town to perhaps put together a reading. And it's sort of the birthchild of another thing that I do called the Nashville Poetry Party. I do this with my lovely wife. Give a little, Casey, give a little twirl over there. And another local poet, Eric Steiniger. The National Poetry Party runs from May to October, so we're in the off season. If you're curious about that, just go to Instagram and look up the National Poetry Party. It's SNL with poets. How about that? It's a lot of fun. It's very different. Nothing like the traditional reading like this is. But in the off season, we can't do a party every month because we'll go crazy. It's a lot of work. In the off season, I was like, I still want to be doing stuff, and I want to bring something over Forevermore that'll give them some business and some different people in who might not be here otherwise. And so Poetry on Demand was invented, which is, so officially it's called the National Poetry Party Presents Poetry on Demand, which is NPPPPOD. I think it's the best name for a reading series in the country. All right, enough about what we're doing. So we're gonna have 3 readers, and then after that we'll have an open mic. So where do we go? Okay, here is your open mic sign up. If you sign up on this, I'll be terrified. Where's my wife there? And we'll leave as much time for that. Just read one poem, and then we'll be out of here. It'll take about an hour. All I think I need to do is introduce our first reader, and then we'll be off to the races. Does anybody need anything? Any questions? Any concerns?
Can you use one of those stools?
Yes, sir. You can use one of these stools.
Oh wow,
They're really low. I don't know.
I thought they were really called
We got another stool over here.
You want this chair? Yeah, we got more chairs.
Oh, yeah, I'll take this one.
Yeah. Use that as like an ornament. Get cozy.
I thought, the legs are really long on this.
No, I was going to use it as this thing, and then I was like, it's like all the way down here. Okay, so, by the way, let's go. Okay. I almost did that. So, our first reader is Joshua Johnston. He was born and raised in Caneyville. Yeah, Caneyville, Kentucky. How big and small is Caneyville, Kentucky? Yeah. Okay. So it's not this big. All right. But he isn't on the town's Wikipedia page, which is some horse shit. He got the kinds of degrees and publications you're supposed to list in the second or third line of the bio like this, and they made him about as rich as you would expect. He currently lives and teaches in Nashville. Welcome to Nashville. I don't know how long you've been here. Because he's here tonight and not at home lesson planning, he'll probably be showing his students documentaries in class tomorrow. Grizzly Man and something about Harry Smith, if you'd like to know. Let's give Joshua a warm welcome.
I'm going to get a little bench for my water.
It's
like this.
You like it over?
That's a good height. All right. This poem's called Cartographer's Songbook. In Plymouth, Minnesota, the people gathered at the site of the burnt-down dance hall and smeared ashes on their feet. And in Magnolia, Arkansas, the people took their children to the park to nail get-well carts to the trees. In Jamestown, North Dakota, the people found it blasphemous the way the PA system buzzed and hummed through the pregame moment of silence. And in Schuyler, Nebraska, the people found it scandalous the way the painting of a river looked nothing like a river. In Bisbee, Arizona, the people debated the ethicality of flash photography at funeral services. And the people in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, calculated the statistical probability that an asteroid would fall into Walmart. In Bartlett, Tennessee, the people said, legalize rust. In Decatur, Alabama, the people said, we paid to see a miracle, not this. In Monticello, Louisiana, the people elected the old mayor's body double as the new mayor. And in Luckenbach, Texas, the people filled a time capsule with painkillers and buried it in a field. A woman in Youngstown, Ohio, slowly whited out every instance of the letter I in a novel before returning it to the library. In Beckley, West Virginia, a man felt the wind against his back and turned around and said, what the fuck do you want? Here's a poem about growing up. It's called Secret Handshake of the Virtuous. What I remember most are those summers in the Hamptons, the ocean rising to greet my bare feet, my young imagination transforming the family sailboat into a historic battleship, my father patiently explaining to me that modernist architecture can never reach the minimalist heights achieved by a solitary prison cell. When I missed the target and lodged an arrow in my archery instructor's thigh, he just said, you were close, and now you know what it feels like to shoot a man. And it did feel like something. A horse with more than 4 legs, forced jumping jacks in a downpour, perhaps a pile of fruit rotting out on the deck. I asked my watercolor instructor what he thought would happen if we only used water derived from melted mountaintop snow, and he said, if I knew the answer to that, I would be your philosophy instructor. But my philosophy instructor was a different kind of man altogether. The only adult I'd ever seen wear a bib while he dined, or get down on his hands and knees to meticulously arrange the animals in a toy farm set. My father fired him after he overheard him telling me that all astronomers must eventually aim their telescopes directly at the sun. I suppose I really did learn most of what I know during those years. My mind was like a priceless vase that was finally filled with flowers. And like a vase full of flowers, I instantly made any room I entered more beautiful. Woo! It's called Hymn of Healing. Suddenly nostalgic for the year I subsisted solely on food provided to me by a charity whose primary purpose was bolstering the public image of its celebrity founder. I lost 25 pounds and developed a skin rash so beautiful a London fashion house paid me $10,000 for the rights to develop a pattern based on it. The Scandinavians were all the talk, how they had their shit figured out in ways we never would. I spent a lot of time wandering around museums, feeling like a cargo ship carrying products whose creation involved an amount of suffering its recipients could never begin to fathom or appreciate. I saw a mastodon skeleton and wept for 30 minutes. I looked at a painting of a river in France and felt nothing. Someone in the lobby was playing Brahms on a Casio keyboard. It was all very spiritual, but not in too burdensome of a way. The perfume was said to capture the scent of the smoke wafting off the Library of Alexandria. It's called Left Only with Optimism. I opened wide the aperture to the rowers of the marsupial lifeboat firing their flare guns into the waves. Plucked the ode from the heart of rodeo with surgical tweezers, gifted to those who sacrifice their teeth to the Saturday night crowd at the Fair and Expo Center. Sleep deniers, string benders, autodidactic unemployables, bring it in here. My embrace is a temple, its lobby immune to pamphleteers, its restrooms freshly renovated. Look at the dust the parking lot makes of fluorescent bulbs, the way the fruit ferments twice as fast when God has the kids for the weekend. Why the rush to name this troubling new animal noise? Why the contest? ossifying kaleidoscope, ragtime narcoleptic, memory-haunted arena of the ancients. Inside each bird is a different cassette. Inside each sky is another sky. You offer this. All smoke is a signal, even if it says only, below me lies fire. Here's my newly invented theory. It's a 7 billion way tie for first. This is called Home with Electric Green Fog Descending. The tornado avoids the huddle house. The monster refuses to rise from the lake. The song says, make the world go away, and then the world goes away, but in glacially paced increments. My dad and all his friends have cool stories about miraculously surviving, getting wedged in impossibly narrow passages while spelunking in Mammoth Cave, or uncovering plots to blow up Los Angeles, and having to undergo experimental surgical procedures to have their faces swapped with those of career criminals in order to ascertain the bomb's whereabouts. But all I have is this hard drive full of shitty demos my high school band recorded on Audacity, and a linguistics degree from a second-rate state school. Last night I dreamed that an electric green fog composed of the souls of everyone I've ever known and loved descended on my coastal home. And instead of dwelling in that mystery with grace and contemplation, I climbed into the front seat of my Camry and brooded until it dissipated. I opened my work app and checked the number of remaining sick days. I took an online workshop over how to word death threats ambiguously enough to evade legal action. The answer I'd scribbled down the night before made no sense in the morning, when I looked up to see salvation approaching with wine stains on its teeth. Now this poem is a poem I wrote over the holidays for my buddy Alan. It's called, You Must Delete the Work Email App from Your Phone If You Ever Hope to Be Whole Again, or a holiday home for Alan. We got a question?
Is Alan here?
No, the bastard's not here. He's never here. One of these days at the twist ending is going to be like, Alan. He's not. He was. He was the green fall. And this poem, I'll dedicate this one to Robert Bly, wherever he is floating around out there. Little Jimmy Aurelius startles from a dream in which his hand has been thrust into a football helmet full of what feels suspiciously like brain matter. But the locker room is empty, the ritual is incomplete, the armies have already descended the hills for the winter, and their auto responses bear pixelated evergreens and verses from Philippians. His cheeks tear-streaked, fist-sized holes in the drywall like craters on an IKEA moon. No choice now but to go hunting for the haunted corn mazes and abandoned department stores of the Southeast Conference for that vaunted golden key. The morning comes on suddenly like an E major rumbling through a beer commercial. I should have been a civil engineer, David says to Coach's ghost, but for a second thinks he hears a response beginning to shoulder its way through the veil, but realizes as it grows louder that it's just the approaching bus. Realizes, as he realizes most days, that even when the forms have been signed and submitted accordingly, there will be no reimbursement for these cinder block rooms and styrofoam cups. There will be only cramped aisles, glass cases of stolen sleep, repainted and priced within reason. The streetlights relieved of their duty above a parking lot, where a man with a description in place of a name sells CDs of music produced on the desktop at the public library, thin symbols and synthetic kalimba. It's enough because it has to be. This is as good a sentiment to affix to the end of this thought as any. Like an illiterate warrior prince with his half-nude concubine airbrushed on the side of a moving van, for a coupon good for 3 extra syllables on your epitaph. The holidays meet us where we are. The snowdrifts cover the great circle of the field behind the Mason's Lodge. The voice on the police scanner confesses the hidden virtues of public intoxication. And the Cub Scouts breathe on their chrome-throwing stars, polish them as the script instructs. As if there's a fork in the narrative. As if there's any other here but here, with its sodium glow, dubious insurance claims, abundance of abundance. And I realize now I'm walking slowly away from my swivel chair, like a startling murmuration pouring from the sleeves of an orphan hoodie. And it's like the old song says, "O little star of Bethlehem, hanging like a jersey in the rafters. I've lived too long, and not long enough."
Yeah.
And this is the last poem, and this is an elegy for a sort of American folk hero / hotel and restaurant magnate. It's called Triptych for Jimmy Buffett. 1. Johnston wrote that Shakespeare would live as long as his work did, as long as mankind didn't decline into total illiteracy. And I guess you wrote a few books yourself, including a New York Times bestseller that your website describes as an irresistible gumbo of dreamers, wackos, pirates, and sharks, which sort of throws a wrench in my gears, since I came here to argue that the page is cheap taxidermy compared to the voice's living drift. And as long as your words cling to the chapped lips of pot-bellied cover singers in frayed cargo shorts and straw cowboy hats, you will be a stranger to the grave. 2. Jesus could have walked on anything, but he chose water. Distant skiffs and gull sounds, salt breeze and corona sweat. And while I've never performed a miracle, I did walk on oyster shells through the parking lot of an Apalachicola bar, toward the steel drum boogie of boat drinks blasting from a set of ancient TV speakers. And I felt my soul mingle with those of dentists from the greater Cleveland area, insurance adjusters from Columbus and Fort Wayne, temporary beneficiaries of the weekend's day drunk mercy, liberated from the hell of obligation into some new anarcho-mariner utopia. 3. If you've ever made love in a Winnebago with a blushing pink sunset airbrushed on the spare tire cover, or watched winning lotto tickets blacken and wither in a flame of mysterious origin, if you've ever indulged in sincere use of end rhyme or caught herpes from a borrowed harmonica, if you've ever requested to have your ashes scattered in a flower bed by a strip mall karaoke bar, or used a floral button-up as a makeshift tourniquet, if you've ever had a dream in which Anheuser-Busch financed the development of an ocean where most of the lower Midwest used to be, or reconciled with your ex-wife in a wildlife sanctuary, or pissed off the side of a moving speedboat, or had your prayers mistaken for kitsch, then you know why I'm crying in my car right now. Thank you.
Absolutely awesome. Well, man, what was that line? The murmuration of starlings coming out of the sleeve of a lost hoodie? That's awesome. I'm totally gonna steal that. Okay, that's what we're all here for, is to steal from each other, right? Let's give Joshua Johnston a round of applause. Thank you very much. Meghan Williams is a late scratch because she's sick. So we kind of sent her human vibes, human vibes, etc. So we have a backup, Meghan. This is Meghan Williams. Okay, I was like, please get someone named almost Megan. That'd be great. Meghan, and what's really fun about this is, this is poetry on demand. But Meghan Williams is a fiction writer. All right, so I was like, well, you could cancel and find someone, and if it's a fiction writer, that's just great. What do we care? Who previously worked for the U.S. Army. I said worked for the U.S. Army, wasn't in the U.S. Army, but worked for, okay? Baskin Robbins, and a prosthetics company, all at the same time. I just added that there. Not in that order chronologically, or of enjoyment. She has an MFA from Warren Wilson. She's published work in Blue Earth Review, Swing, and Other Places, and is perpetually revising her novels. Please give Meghan a warm welcome.
I'm going to copy Joshua and get my little drink table set up. Thank you guys for having me and letting me interrupt your regularly scheduled poetry broadcast and do a little fiction instead. I do usually write longer work, but I decided to at least open up with some flash. I feel like that hopefully will share a little bit with poetry. And there's nothing really you need to know about this, but I was recently a tourist in Florida, down in the Panhandle, and I learned that if you go crabbing, which I don't know if any of you have done, you are not allowed to keep any female crabs. You will be fined. I don't know how much, but if you catch crabs, you do need to check them and throw the females back. I think this is like a preservation thing. So this is a flash fiction story called Killing Time. When I became a ghost, I kept going, but the world went slack. The living drifted orchid-like continents. Sneezes bloomed slower than the corpse flower at the Chicago Botanic Gardens, which is where the blood clot got me. I quickly gave up on all that edification and headed south to Fort St. Joe to see about killing my husband's sweat. At first, I passed time floating through cars, tapping French fries out of passengers' fish mouths. Outside Nashville, I drifted into a hoopty in the eons-long process of crumpling into a semi. The driver's ghost, newly released, took one look at me and left. I thought that was a little harsh until I glanced in the rear view and saw the baby. For hours, I tried to get him out. I could depress the car seat button with what passed through my hands, but not enough to release the straps. When the Fisher-Price plastic began to split, I fled faster than his father. After that, I stuck to the shoulder, listing everything I hated about Sweat. 1, he had no hobbies. 2, his ginger skin burned just to look at the sun. 3, he refused to set foot on my boat, but lectured if I forgot to throw even a single female crab back. 4, he genuinely preferred spaghetti to my low country boil. 5, he came to all the fertility appointments, even when it was over and I wanted to be left alone. 6, while I was rebuilding after Hurricane Michael, clapboard by clapboard in 110% humidity. Where was Sweat? Supposedly taking breaks in the Starbucks air conditioning, making charts of our eroding savings on his tablet. 6, I believed him until 5 years later, when I pulled a letter out of the mailbox from some FEMA chick in Chicago. I still think about you. My life changed that night. Can we meet up? Sure, bitch. How was I to kill my husband with the grip strength of a toddler? I couldn't nudge an appliance into his tepid bath, nor could I strangle him with his tie-dye sunglasses straps. One day, while I was particularly worked up about this, a cyclist coming towards me on the side of the highway contorted his mouth. I hung out for the ghost equivalent of a few days, watching his face darken and scream, his bike inch towards and then jump the embankment, soul so close to freedom. Anger made me visible again. I practiced for miles, wreckage in my wake. Finally, the sparkling wolf rose over Highway 90. I bore down with my floating appendage, hurtling towards the turquoise kitchen door. My back itched as I passed through the wreath Sweat had glued together from coquilles I collected. I was stopped up short before a curtain of crabs, new potatoes, shrimp, and corn cobs. Sweat was upending a 48-quart boiled pot over our newspaper-covered kitchen table. Steam had blistered his freckled cheeks. His glasses were fogged. The crab's wide floating abdomens caught my eye, females all. God damn, Sweat was an idiot. Minute by minute, I waited for his glasses to clear so he could see me in all my fury. His puny heart would judder, only to find, waiting on the other side, my new and terrifying form. I, as Sweat, had offered to meet the other woman at the Botanic Gardens Orchid Show of Wonders. A clever touch, because the real Sweat, who believed I was visiting my mother in Orlando, was fond of cranefly orchids, always pointing out their piddly white blooms in Appalachicola forest. The woman was late. I followed a stream of people and came upon the Titan arum, an enormous cabbage with a purple frill. Any minute now, folks, an official announced, the corpse flower blossoms and dies within 1 hour. Whispers tickled the room. I rolled my eyes. And when they settled, there he was. Opposite the flower, holding the woman's hand. A sweet, sweet, red-headed boy with Sweat's eyes. The crowd gasped. People pointed, but I only had eyes for the child. Oh, miracle. Oh, what I had always pictured. The most exquisite pain and wonder. In our kitchen, the shredded potatoes and corn fell one by one. Sausages bounced onto the linoleum. Over what felt like a day, Sweat removed his glasses, and I knew from the look in his eyes that not much time at all had passed since he heard I was gone. He sliced each crab down the middle, he scooped out the roe, forced down the meat, and rested the fragile shells on the counter. Did he know that life went on? I watched invisible for eternity. Thank you. And now for something completely different. So I was not actually in the military, but I grew up an Army brat. My husband served, and I actually, my first job out of college, I was hired to be a journalist at Fort Carson in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I actually wanted to work in media relations from 2011 to 2014. So this is the beginning of a longer story that I'm working on. It's a work in progress that I guess you should just know it's set in Afghanistan in 2014, which was around the end of U.S. combat operations. So if you were a young soldier deployed at that time, you might find yourself in kind of a different milieu than maybe you would imagine. Like maybe you're not seeing as much quote-unquote action as you had thought that you would see. So this is a story that's a little bit about that. And it's called Vampire Shift. And actually, I'm gonna break to drink a little latte. I think the nice thing about poems is maybe you get more breaks to drink. Maybe I need to like build in some breaks. And I should also warn you guys, there's a lot of dialogue in this, and I am a writer, not an actress, so I'm gonna do my best impersonating a bunch of men in the army. Number 2374, the Bagram Airfield laundry clerk enunciated, holding the tag on specialist Thomas Shaver's laundry bag up next to the corresponding receipt. And number 2374, this is your bag. Really? Shaver stepped back from the desk. The multi-cam uniforms delivered to his bunk overnight stopped at his calves and forearms. Maybe 2 Velcro teeth out of 1,000 managed to connect across his chest. The clerk scratched beneath his puffy white chef's hat. Ask your battle buddy, he said. I can't help you. Next. Thomas suspected his bunkmate, a staff sergeant who hid his porn in a copy of Once an Eagle, but he could no sooner search an NCO's duffel than get up on stage at Bogram's Got Talent and sing Party in the USA, which was the winning song 2 years running. Could you just check the back in case someone returned mine? Asked Thomas. Specialist, what's the holdup? Someone barked from the growing line. I'm taking Dempsey on a joyride over the Argandab at 0900. Chow closes at 0830. I need my shit on a shingle, boys. Snickers gave way to hushed reverie as the Chief Warrant Officer 4 from the Big Red One sauntered up. Thomas's right hand flew up in a salute. His eyes wandered to aviator wings thrown crooked on sun-faded material below an intense sunglasses tan. This guy fucked. He went outside the wire and often, instead of relaxing in 24/7 aircon with the fobbits like Thomas. Fobbit is like a derogatory term for someone who just is stuck on a forward operating base. Finish that salute, Brett, and I'll kill ya, the CW4 winked. Ooh, Sergeant Major's gonna smoke your whole ass if you show up like that. Hey, he swiveled to address the clerk. Find this guy tall and skinny or sew him out of parts if you have to. Sir, now the clerk bowed and scraped. The way our system works, do your goddamn job, or you're gonna be thumbing a ride back to your cousin's Pesh Valley donkey barn on a hay cart so with old people fucking. The CW4 snapped. Apparently unaware the laundry workers were all Bangladeshi. Thank you, sir, Thomas said. Stand up for yourself, soldier. You 11 Bravos, which is infantry, are the Army's backbone. I will, sir. Don't get sappy, I'm just in this for my breakfast. See ya. Hey, maybe next time I'll be giving you a ride out of here. After the CW4 cut the line to get his bag and left, the clerk skulked back out and resumed his haughty tone with Thomas, who just gave up. On his way to work down the flat beige streets beneath constant air traffic altering the inner register of his eardrums, Thomas meditated on the CW4's final words. How he hoped that they might form a prophecy, that fate would intervene and chopper him away to those white-capped mountains like wallpaper edging the view, where there was at least a chance of firing his weapon before this. Whatever this was, this engagement, this war, this mission was over. Shaver, did you go through puberty overnight? Captain Garrett Poole, Assistant Battalion S3, who was saving all of his deployment money to walk in further steps on Mount View, New Zealand, swiveled in his ergonomic chair. No, sir, Thomas mumbled. Laundry lost my gear, sir, best of you. You look like a Samoan West Point tight end, cackled Specialist Yancey voice. Technically Thomas's battle buddy, but too busy pressuring women to strip on Skype at the MWR tent to provide much real support. Voice unhelpful, sighed Poole. You're good, Shaver, just unfuck yourself by tomorrow and gather up the boys for a sit rep. The boys of the S3 shop were 20 weirdos, anti-authoritarians, and company rejects, male and female, exiled from their line units to handle logistics, paperwork, and such enviable tasks as motor pool. Their married crew included butterbars who had twisted their ankles on air assault jumps, NCOs who flunked both PT and tape tests, and a jittery two-time specialist whose mental health eval should have disqualified him from enlistment, but his recruiter was gunning for that Obama surge quota bonus. Thomas was there for the rarest of reasons, something that was completely not his fault. They were 6 months into a 9-month deployment. After they left, circa December 2014, U.S.-led combat operations would officially end, The mission would transition to advising and assisting the Afghan National Army, ANA. No more heroics, significantly fewer firefights, limited to zero hunting of the Taliban. Thomas found most of the unit lounging by the Keurig, listening to Corporal Tickler recount how near he was to the mortar blast that had taken out a Bagram bus stop the day before. I kid you not, this major next to me starts hauling ass as soon as we hear it. Everyone else is dropping, but he's got his arms out for that sweet, sweet shrapnel. Please hit me, please. I need a Purple Heart to get into Harvard Law. Fuck off about the sit rep, Shaver. What are you, the mayor of Munchkinland? 2-minute warning. Shaver said, I'm just passing it on. Good work, homeschool. Your mom's so confused. Thomas, regretting the amount of personal information he'd shared with his office mates, settled into a coveted windowsill spot as the briefing began. First things first, Captain Cooling toned, not seriously. As we have hit the 2/3 mark on this fine excursion, Chaplain tells me I am legally obligated to ask, how are you doing? Shrugs all around. Let me rephrase. Beat her up for once, Derek. Are you considering offing yourself? No? Good. If you are, talk to your battle buddy. Talk to me. Moving on. An ALRAC came down regarding General Order Number 1, which says you can't drink alcohol in the combat zone. If your spouse mails you Listerine, it is an automatic Article 15, gentlemen. Lady, I don't care how bad your halitosis is. Cool pause, which was unusual, and snapped his gum. Lastly, before you hear it from someone else, Sergeant Chu with Charlie Company was killed in action on Cop Muriel this morning. He said that all very quickly and then drew a long breath. I am sorry for those of you from 212 who may have known him. Gasps, cries of fucking Hodgies. Thomas straightened up. We're light on details, continued Poole, so you know the drill when it comes to rumors, don't be a spreader. There were also 2 wounded in action from the same cop, Specialist Cross, Specialist Hardy, unrelated training incident. Brigade wants to keep them close to the hospital for a while, so we're getting some new office mates. Let's tidy this place up and show a little hospitality, all right? A line unit that just lost 3 men, they would get at least 1 replacement. While the rest of the shop stared into their dip cups, trying not to cop Cross and Hardy's Purple Heart citations, Thomas was on his feet. Across the room, Boyce was too. They were both thinking the same thing. As soon as assignments were handed out, for Thomas, Tactical Operations Center set up meal fetching again. He and Boyce were Olympic speed walking around desks to get to Poole first. No sooner did their competing sirs rise than they were drowned out by the bored English god who lived in the ceiling. Rocket, attack, rocket, attack. Every second syllable of the PA was a sigh as everyone fled down to the concrete bunker below headquarters. And I will end the day.
Thank you. Let's give Megan another round of applause. What do you call it when somebody fills in? Our backup Megan. There you go, backup Megan. That should be your new Instagram, like your side Instagram, backup Megan. Just sort of appears. All right. You do whatever you do. All right. How's that? Is anybody signed up for the open mic? Where's that there? Yeah, anybody on there? 1 person? Okay. Okay, awesome. Okay, very good. We'll have a short open mic. I think I'm going to start calling it a poetry share or something. Open mics are going to be shit. Okay. Last but not least, Tom C. Hunley. Before I read his bio, I should sort of say some personal things here. So, Tom and I have been Facebook friends for years, and one thing I really like about Tom is that he's unafraid to say what he actually thinks about things. So people block him all the time. He doesn't actually know this, but yeah, he's one of the most blocked poets in America, and I'm definitely #1, by the way, really. But he had me come up to is it Western Kentucky? Yeah, to Western Kentucky where he's a professor, and visit with the students and read some poems and do some poetry stuff. So it's a good time. Yeah, he hit me up and said, I hear you're doing some poetry on demand. I've been writing some poetry in Nashville. So thank you so much. I drove down this afternoon. I'm just super happy to have you here. So thanks a lot. Is this the first time you've read in Nashville?
No, I read poetry socks back in
Oh yeah. I was not here when that was going on. I missed that. Oh, it should be noted that he is Joshua's former professor. So he is the reason that Joshua is the man he is today. All right, so a little bit of a reunion happening here. Okay, so Tom C. Hunley is the author of, and this is pretty amazing. I mean, 8 full-length poetry collections, 8 chapbooks, 2 textbooks, and 2 produced films, which is just awesome, just awesome. He showed me some of them when I was up there. It's very, I've met a lot of poets. I don't think any of them are making films, so good for you. Tom's partial, he and his wife, 28 years of wife now. Way to go, yeah. And they have 4 incredibly difficult children. It says right here, 4 amazing kids. Tom's partially disabled now with a degenerative bone disease, but he enjoys living all the more. Sometimes he fronts rock bands, which you're going to be doing that tomorrow? Yeah, rock and roll, okay. All right. If you're up in Bowling, check it out. Right or wrong, he believes he has impeccable taste when it comes to literature, film, music, and the one woman who has his heart. He seriously lacks inner resources, and he's almost certain that his liver is diseased. He despises generative AI, groupthink, the tortured language of propaganda, big government, and bloated bureaucracies, especially in universities. He has published poems and journals with names beginning with every letter of the alphabet. Are you serious? Wow. Well, the X, Zizima? You're doing Zizima?
That starts with C.
Doesn't.
But my ex is Xavier.
Okay. You're right, it does start with a Z. From the Atlanta Review to Zone 3. Thank you for coming down to us, and everyone, please give them up and clap for them. This is not on. Oh yeah, it's okay.
I'm going to have one of these on my floor. It's good. Well, thanks for coming out, everybody. Especially all the people that are my friends that I see here. It's something I haven't seen in a bunch of years, including Josh. I'll just get right to it, though. A lot of my poems are about my kids. I have 4 kids, 2 of them have special needs, and I've written about that a lot. This one is called What She Said. Willie Collins read it on his the poetry broadcast, his podcast, which is awesome. And I made him cry. He cried in the last minute, so he's not known for it. What She Said. My son has fallen in love with King of the Hill. Hank sells propane and propane accessories, he tells me, about 100th time this week. I laugh like it's the first time. Say, yep, take back an imaginary automobile. You sell poetry and poetry accessories, he says, and I laugh for real. And people have no sense, say people on the spectrum have no sense of humor. He's having more trouble with, that's what she said. How was school today? That's what she said. Have you fed the dog? That's what she said. For some reason, this upsets me. I tell him it's only funny in context. I show him the episode where Ben Stiller guest stars as the voice of the rich, a new Strickland propane employee with a potty mouth. I need an 8-inch bell pipe. That's what she said. I hope this girl has enough juice for the job. That's what she said. My son gives me the same lost look my college freshmen get when we come to lines like, making the beast with 2 backs. I collect myself. Son, I say, I don't care if you never understand body humor or why I like metaphors so much. You're the one program I could watch all day without changing the channel. I just want you to be happy in this life. That's what she said, he says, tilting his head in his mother's direction. So one for my daughter. Pounds. Our 18-year-old daughter cringes, scowls at the scale. Mom, I weigh 1290, she shouts, her voice pained by a world that has had its foot on the scale ever since she was born, freighted with the weight of her birth mother's drug addiction. It's a digital scale, sweetie, says my wife. You weigh 129.0. Our daughter bounds down the stairs to where her brothers and I are spilling soda and chips as the Seahawks fly past the Eagles. Dad, I lost pounds, she says. We clap and cheer. How many pounds did you lose, sweetie? I asked. I don't know. I weighed 133, now I weigh 129, she says. So what's 133 minus 129, I ask her. I don't know, she says. And I hope I can be someone she can count on, that I can carry this weight which feels 10 times heavier than my own body. I have some books here for sale for discounted prices, 12 for the full-length collections, 5 for the chapbooks. One of the full-length collections, it's all self-epitaphs. I die like 40-some different ways. Each poem generous. Well, most of them start here, like Hunley, which is the title of the book. Anyway, just pick one of those. It's actually called Surrounded by Aliens. Who isn't a baby in a blanket thrown out the window of a burning house? Who isn't a bamboo kite about to be torn to pieces by a flesh and blood kite? Who isn't a windstorm, embarrassed to ask for directions, but also afraid to subside? Tom C. Hunley lies in a hospital bed surrounded by aliens, his family and friends, but from a different world from the one where he lies, snapped like branches and then burned like branches and then overwhelmed like a small flame by the soothing music of rain. He's not gone or quite still here, but in between, like all of us, always in between. Who isn't a house with many rooms, all of them hallways? Who isn't surrounded by aliens, wondering why war looks like love, why love looks like war? Hello, hello, says the nurse, like a question spat into a telephone, while she touches him and he hears but can't tell her. Her touch makes him feel too much like food that cries each time it's bitten, in a voice like a dog whistle, and so ouch, so much ouch, but the nurse's beauty stings a sunset scene from a prison cell. I wrote another book called The State That Springfield Is In. Each poem is written in the voice of a different character from The Simpsons. Split lit press, print. Well, there are a few of those in What Feels Like Love, which is a newly selected poems. So I picked Auto Man, Intrepid Bus Driver. Unless you'll have a favorite. Yeah, those are my favorite poems in the book. What's that? Grandpa. I do have a grandpa poem. And then I'll cut something else. Auto Man, Intrepid Bus Driver. One time when I was blotto, my converses started talking to me. If I could explain what they said, if I could find words to match the road's wordless language, you would learn more than your teachers could put on a year's worth of chalkboards. I'll get you to Springfield Elementary, but we're taking a scenic route, teachers. Look to your left at the forest fire. The whole world's burning. That's your first lesson. You can get a tattoo in this town on your 14th birthday, and you should. That's lesson number 2. Get out your air guitars to see how many kinds of silence you can pluck out of the air. Somebody give us a beat. You, Dolph, make a scratching sound like a broom sweeping a house. And you, Kearney, try to sound like a wind blowing in a place where there are no houses around, while Jimbo makes a scraping sound like someone raking leaves. I'm going to teach you all a new word, intersubjectivity. I learned that at Brown University, where I almost made tenure. It means the silence of those trees connects to the silence of your air guitars. It means my thoughts and yours can meet mid-air without us having to speak if we let it happen. I remember school, recess spent alone looking at the parking lot, wet and shining, the yellow sounds of the buses calling me, telling me the clouds overhead were a blueprint for a heaven still under construction. I wanted to translate those sounds. Sometimes I think this bus will lift off and take us to that half-finished heaven. I feel myself drift away from this world. I fall into a sleep as deep as the sleep of the dormant notes inside my Les Paul. And I wait just before the bus goes off a cliff, seeing dawn's reddening light in the tall grass, gone greener than any green light, and I realize that each of us is just a little breath, that this yellow school bus is a canary sent deep into the mines, that you are the precious shiny metal in those mines, that you are the sunlight sparkling on the Springfield River as the road bends, and the bus hugs the road, and the world awaits the honking of our horn, the screeching of our brakes. And I don't think Grandpa made it into the selected poems. He's in the out of print book. Good luck finding it. I only have a few copies of it, but that's terrible. Okay, so the newest book is called The Loneliest Whale in the World. Maybe a couple poems from that one. Okay, this is from Charles, because we were talking about when we mentioned Sammy Hagar, and I said, I have a poem with David Lee Roth in it. So, people gone, you know, people gone. but blush or look away when other people cry. All the heavy metal potheads from high school became bankers or lawyers, or in some cases, well-heeled preachers. Meanwhile, David Lee Roth, formerly of Van Halen, could show up at your door to set up your dish TV satellite, and you wouldn't even recognize him. Now, would you? Or you'd recognize him, but you'd yawn and he'd yawn to hide the fact that he's crying inside. Might as well jump, like a fish that shocks the air and is shocked by it before diving back to its underwater world skimmed by sunlight. Me? I've seen barbed wire, rusting, and brittle morning light. I felt a horse's damp lips raise my hand, heard it snort like wind flapping a flag. Honest, I've heard a stadium exhale as a ball landed in a glove, and I spent the car ride home trying to find a way to describe that sound. I've heard people laugh when other people laugh, but it would be a lie to say I've never heard anyone laugh and someone else cry. I need you to know that the skies tilting from the heaviness of all these southbound birds will right itself before you have a chance to fact check it. Appreciate you listening. I got like 3 more maybe. I've noticed people get older, they talk about their bodies all the time, and so as a writer getting older, I'm writing about my body sometimes. This one's called skinny dipping. My God, my body has changed as if my old place of business has been shuttered. Thank you, Lord, for my body, how it resembles a car that resembles a coffin with wheels, dented but not yet totaled. My body a drowned treasure chest, picked clean by pirates. Thank you, gravity, for keeping me grounded, but just once I want to be a helium balloon, to be naked with no shame, no matter how many people point. There's an American Association for Nude Recreation, but I'm not a joiner. I don't have a friend in the world who would be into skinny dipping, and maybe that's what's missing. But I won't go skinny dipping alone. I'll be a stream that's made peace with the ocean. I want to sing into Van Gogh's severed ear and let him paint me nude and blue, my face unfinished, my body a temporary address in a town you never hear about except when fugitive criminals get tracked down there. I'll learn to swim in the body I have. I promise I was young once, but too self-conscious to dance. I should have danced, music or no music. Now I'm the lake I dog paddle in. Now my body is a doorway into a room on fire. Now my body is a framed painting my children colored over. Sometimes I lie and dream that my body is new. Sometimes I lie and dream of never waiting. Sometimes I write robots that want to be gunshots. Sometimes I think there should be more of me. Someone in every group of skinny dippers thinks it's funny to hide other people's clothes. Someone always takes pictures. The cops always arrive, but never join in. Okay, so I got 2 more to do. This is the only poem I have that had a Nashville reference. There's several poems in here that are elegies for musicians. David Berman is a favorite poet and songwriter of mine. Eulogies, and also at the end, Purple Mountains. Purple Mountains was their album was as good as any Eulogies album, in my opinion. So, little story behind it, quick. Bowling Green and Pulp Cartoons came down to a place here called, I want to say it's called The End, a bar, and played a Silver Juice cover set, and the actual Silver Juice showed up. And it was a pretty small club, so I got to know David Berman, talking all evening.
I was just going to say, I've heard this story.
All right, downloadable caffeine for David Berman, 1967 to 2019. Quote from his book, Actual Air. All this new technology will eventually give us new feelings that will never completely displace the old ones, leaving everyone feeling quite nervous and split in two. That's from a poem called Self-Portrait in 28. Let's celebrate the coffee hour when the day could still take a right turn or a left turn out better than okay, or at least better than yesterday. Sunlight might splash on your face and you might hear Nashville in a stone skipping or in the voice of those whose blood runneth orange. Let's call these winning lottery tickets before we scratch them in the coffee hour realm of could be, because singing a song into existence feels like injecting a new narcotic called Bridge Between Us. Because I've been listening to David Berman for years and strumming a guitar that wouldn't let me learn to play it. Let's say a garage band opens the door for air as they work on Silver Juice covers. Pretty eyes send in the clouds and I remember me. Let's say it's a real garage door and not a metaphor. Metaphors are a radical invention. They connect us. Metaphors are OG cell phones. Welcome a world of thousands of friends with whom I'll never shake hands or share a hug. Welcome awkward feelings that won't leave, because the present feels like 66% past and 33% future. And if you wait thinking, knowing anything with certainty feels like lifting an automobile off a wounded poodle, and a phrase from a tabloid headline rolls around your head, let me tell you again about the night I saw a cover band play a Silver Jew set at the end in Nashville, how Bob Nastanovich and David Berman showed up, Bob all goofy charm, David humble and nervous and split. I wish I could go back, plug that music and that night into myself, inject a heavy dose of song, or let it fill my cup. Here's a new one collected one. It's called the dad joke. The first dad joke I remember is my dad saying, I used to know somebody whose nose was always running. You may think this is funny, but it's not. It was also the first dad joke I told, 9 years old on the playground, to a kid who had already heard it from his dad. I heard my dad tell it again when I was 49. That's part of what makes it a dad joke. When I was 10, my dad drove away, or my mom drove him away. On Father's Day, one of her single mom friends brought herself a t-shirt that read, World's Best Dad. I felt for her, but she wore it over and over, and I found it sad and trapped rather than funny, which made it a legit dad joke. The dad joke was on my dad's girlfriend when she called my house looking for him, and I didn't have the heart to tell her that he was in Vegas marrying his other girlfriend. Somebody else's dad taught me the word palindrome with the example, did I poop? I did. I thought my dad would love that one. Dad, did I poop? I did, Dad, is also a palindrome, but my dad wasn't around and I never shared it with him. The dad joke was on me when I learned that I didn't have any credit because I'm a junior and Experian docked me by mistake when my dad didn't pay child support. The first adult advice my dad gave me came in the form of a dad joke. My first serious girlfriend had left me and he said, they're like buses, when you miss one, get on another. The dad joke was on the collection agency who called me looking for my dad. He lived in Brazil, Indiana at the time, so I said, my dad's in Brazil. Dad jokes are made of words, but sometimes words fail us and sometimes our dads fail us. After 20 years out of my life, my dad visited me and my wife in Florida. Overcome, I played leader of the band on the jukebox, a song about a son who admired his father and didn't say a word. Without saying a word, my dad got up and put Cats in a Cradle on the jukebox, a song about a father's regrets. No joke, that's how we made up, without a word. I'm a living legacy. When you coming home, Dad? A dad joke depends on delivery, but in the delivery room, I wasn't prepared for how goopy and pointy-headed my firstborn was. And I'm ashamed that I was ashamed, and my first thought was, he's ugly, but I love him anyway. My wife looked at him and said, he's perfect, I better take him. The next day I met my buddies for cigars, and the dad joke was, I'm already a better dad than my dad because I'm here for my son. But at that very moment, back in our apartment, my wife changed the diaper and wondered where I was. Dad, did I poop? I did, Dad. The dad joke is that when I hear someone walking into the room, I pretend I've been talking about them. E.g., that's why you should always listen to your mom, kids, if it's my wife, or that's why your sister's my favorite, if it's my dog. When my sons were middle schoolers, we formed a family band, Dr. Tom and the Mini-Me's. The dad joke is that my boys rebelled by giving up punk rock. Instead of making myself the cool dad, I made punk rock square. One of my sons says the dad joke is that I just used the word square, which was cringe of me. The dad joke is that when their white friend told me his name was Rico, I nicknamed him Soft Taco, because soft tacos are Latino but also white. The dad joke is that Soft Taco's dad called me and introduced himself as Sam's dad, which is how I learned that Soft Taco was putting everyone on when he said his name is Rico. The dad joke is that Sam is going to be a teen dad soon, and I think he should name his son Soft Taco Jr. The dad joke my kids like best is when someone gets personal in an online argument, and I type, Jesus loves you, everyone else thinks you're an asshole. Cancer's no joke, but my dad got it. No, you probably won't be able to play piano after this, the surgeon told my dad. A, you'll probably be dead, and B, I know you never could play the piano because I've heard this dad joke before. What do you do when you cross a dad joke with an elegy? Seriously, what? This is not rhetorical, this is not a joke. You've heard this one before, you know how it ends. Not with a punchline, but a punch to the gut. You'll tell your kids that their grandpa's in heaven, or if you're not religious, you may say he's in Vegas or Brazil. Knock, knock. Who's there? Dad? No one's there. Not funny at all. One day you ask your dad to subtract 2 from 2, and he says nothing. Okay, subtract 1 from 1, you say, and he says nothing. Okay, but what if you multiply nothing by nothing, you say, okay, your dad, all out of jokes and laughs, says nothing, nothing, nothing. because it's correct, but also because he's disappeared, because he's dead, because it gets told with astonishment, with resignation, it gets told with sadness and with regrets, it gets told and retold, because it gets old, it gets so very old, like your dad, because this isn't funny at all, which makes it a legit dad joke.
Okay, let's give Thompson Helen another round of applause. One thing I really like about putting together readings is how often they work together in ways that you could not have anticipated, even with backup Meghan. I mean, it like just that blending of humor and non sequitur that y'all are all doing. It's very refreshing. All right. Does anybody else want to get up on the poetry share? We've got one person. She's going to be the only one. All right, Jessica, come on up here. Let's get Jessica. All these other cowards.
Are we totally sure anybody else doesn't want to read, so I don't have to be the only one? I get it. Okay.
Here, do you want to use this little mulch here?
Sure.
Just hold it up to your, dip.
Hi, I'm Jess. I don't know if this is working.
Hi, I'm Jess. So I am actually Dr. Hunley's student. I live in Nashville, so it was really convenient for him to be having a reading that's near me. And I also was in the class that Andrew McFadyen came to.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You're not going to remember me because my hair wasn't up back then. And yeah, and the exercise that you led, I'm just remembering. You led an exercise in memory. You had us collect some memories and then write poems based on those memories. And the poem that I wrote out of that exercise, I actually read at First Things First, which is a sexual assault awareness. What would you call it? Just a showcase or something like that. So it turned out to be really beneficial exercise, I would say. So thank you for that. This poem is called Save the Baby. It is a poem to my niece about my sister, her mother. Save the Baby. When your mother was almost 3, she got stuck barefoot in a creeping thistle patch. Every step a stab to my ears, as much to her feet. And I stood there with the neighbor girl's voice in my head. If the baby fell in a well and you had to drown to save her, would you? We used to play Save the Baby with Grandpa, where he'd get on all fours and pin your mama down, and I'd have to push him over so she could scramble up on the couch where the mountain was, the safe zone. It was always behind me somewhere, the safe zone, the mountaintop, the wolf den where the teddy bear cubs slept. She had a head start when the belt came off, when the yardstick snapped, and Grandpa still laughs about how she's spoiled because you never let me spank her. You cry and throw a tantrum every time. But when the neighbor girl asked, I said, I would find a way to save us both. My feet were bare too, the safe zone still behind me, the neighbor girl's gasp in my head. You wouldn't give your life for your sister? Moms are born with all their babies, so you were with your mother when I ran back to the screen door, back to Bambi's thicket, through the quicksand beds and the jungle snakes, to the safe zone without her. Mommy, Mommy, the baby's in the well. I really thought I had it cracked, that Grandma would grab her up out of the green landmines and tweeze the thorns up out of her feet, and we'd go back out back, barefoot again, and that's exactly what happened. I should have thrown myself over the hot coals for you both, but I didn't, and it's been miles of creeping thistle between us ever since.
Wow, that was amazing. I just just love that, you know, I had something I could offer that is valuable. That's really great. Thank you. That's it for this evening, I think. Anybody else got anything? Any questions? Any needs? Coffee? Get some coffee. Thank you. Let's give JP a round of applause. And 1, 2, I want you to boo. 1, 2, Lakers 3.
Boo.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful evening. If you need some poetry, if you demand some poetry, I'm your guy. I'm one of your guys. Thank you, everybody.
Use the restroom, but I'm gonna buy a book, baby.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah, buy some books.
Making a sale.
Yeah. Use the last one. Well, this is a. I know. I was
Yeah, you're welcome. Of course.
It's called, I mean, you can maybe find it through like, you know, Amazon or
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think it's really
Third party sellers.
Aw. You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Of course.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that your poetry parties are like made up. I think you guys were like a book called A Little While Ago. Maybe like Austin. Yeah. We stopped to like things about like so is that going to be at mine next month?
Yeah.
I know it's hard to like work in. I feel like we're honestly struggling with this.
I've been meeting for quite a while. Okay, so what's oh yeah.
Roll. Yeah. Well, he's never wants to. We're supposed to be reading politics here. I just wish that was annoying because our students are busy right now. Yeah. It's so, I mean, here's a lot of people like, it doesn't work for FEMA. It doesn't work for anybody else who like, people invest in it. So we're less worried about his job. So he works for the Corps of Engineers.
Oh,
He used to be in the Army.
Well, we need now.
Yeah, I know. Right. I know.
Yeah.
He used to
No,
work
that's a
so
big one.
Right, like we all know what happens if you do activities. We actually sort of work around California, which is a brand new thing for us, but doing away with real work, we actually don't really have to like the enforcement office in Nashville. We're trying to I don't know why I don't know this, we're trying to figure it out. But all that to say, I was like, Nathan, we're not going to do any longer. Like, yeah, figure it out.
I think actually because we're that's probably why he was like,
Oh no, that was very deliberate actually.
oh, you did that.